Many people may have heard of the dark web, so you can get a pretty good idea about it. It refers to everything that cannot be accessed using common browsers, such as Mozilla, Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge. But it is important to know and take into account the risks that you may have if you decide at some point to explore this world. In order for you to have a better idea, it is important that you take into account every aspect that we will mention here, because the dark web is a totally lawless world that may not be suitable for everyone. If you're wondering how to access the dark web, you actually need a special browser called Tor. But what is the dark web hiding? Is it dangerous and illegal? And is the dark web the same as the deep web? Here we will tell you and clarify everything you want to know about it. Remember, if you enter the dark web, it is at your own risk. Many speculate that there is a hidden reality beneath the tip of the iceberg of internet surfing, which leads to the secret internet, darkness and software in particular. In the dark web, there are usually many visitors such as cyber geniuses, government agencies, fraudsters and even terrorists, as well as journalists seeking the uncensored truth and ordinary people like you and me to communicate with others without being detected by the government itself. The dark web is defined as one of the layers that make up the internet, the first being the superficial web, the deep web and finally the dark web. However, always keep in mind that accessing the dark web has endless dangers. For whatever logic or reason, it is practically the bottom of the barrel. It is important to know the difference between each of the parts, since many people tend to confuse the deep web with the dark web. When we talk about the superficial web, it is a layer of the internet that is accessible to the public with common browsers, such as Safari, Firefox and Chrome. In fact, all content that can be accessed anytime, anywhere is part of the surface web. On the other hand, if we refer to the deep web, it is a part of the web that offers specific information, where most people do not have access, and much less through search engines. This means that if you search for information through internet search engines, you will never have access to a deep web. So, how can you do it? Actually, you only need to know the exact web address and possibly a password, so only people within an organization have access to it. It is estimated that more than 80% of the entire web world is made up of the deep web, to access private and exclusive content for government, universities, companies in general, and more. On the contrary, the dark web is the hidden part of the internet and much more difficult to access than the two previous layers. As we have mentioned, it will only be accessible through special browsers, being the unregulated part of the internet, being a focal point of illegal practices. In fact, to get a little ahead of ourselves, through the dark web you could access compromising content, encounter criminals, viruses and illegal activities, such as child porn and even organ trafficking, which is very disturbing for many. The most common characteristics of the dark web is that in general, websites are a random mix of letters and numbers ending in .onion. Another quality is that the addresses or URLs change constantly, and from there comes the term hidden web, being difficult to track or find, in relation to the deep web and the superficial web. The dark web was actually created by the United States government with the purpose of establishing secret communication between CIA spies to many remote locations. During the 1990s, there was a massive collection of information by the US intelligence department, digitizing more and more reports and rendering obsolete old means of communication, such as radio and letters. In addition, in order for this to take place, new cryptographic techniques were developed in order not to publicly disclose the information. In 1995, this process was already so commonly used among them, giving rise to the program carried out by the US Naval Research Laboratory, giving rise to the Tor browser, the Onion router, establishing fully encrypted lines of communication. In 1997, the project was taken over by the Pentagon's Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, which subsequently turned it over to various civil rights groups. Some believe that Tor was never abandoned, so to speak, by the US government. Others claim it was a strategy to open and embrace the Anonymous network for all US agents, as a way to be able to use it worldwide whenever they wanted and carried out secret plans. Internet sources also say that the network was opened so that other people couldn't use it and minimize the risk of intercepted communication by third parties. Since the more users, the less you will be seen, so finding a router in a haystack is impossible, being able to dilute all communication in a sea of non-governmental communication, allowing the anonymity of agencies, and continue quietly carrying out their operations, reports, and more. Although the dark web was created by the US government, due to the great expansion and worldwide coverage it now has, each country has its own connection and jurisdiction, escaping from their hands. Furthermore, should the network be shut down from a single location, the rest of the network will continue to exist autonomously. Another reason for not shutting down the dark web is that the United States, for example, continues to benefit from it, even to carry out possible illegal activities through it. To this day, it is the form most commonly used by intelligence agencies as a covert channel of communication. In the same way, it is a very useful tool for political activists, where they need to filter and anonymously denounce authoritarian states, including being used as a communication weapon against regimes and governments with dictatorships. In the hypothetical case of wanting to shut down the dark web in its entirety, a dozen countries will have to agree to this decision, which, on the contrary, is not in their interest to do so. However, when the dark web is shut down, it is because several agencies have come together to make it happen. It is important to note that the dark web is a double-edged sword, since this communication tool is not usable for governments such as the United States, but can also be used against them, such as the international non-profit media organization WikiLeaks and the allegations made by Snowden against the United States. Being a totally lawless network, many believe that the dark web is a medium of communication, where legal matters such as hiring hitmen, carrying out plans for illegal activities of top leaders, and agencies working undercover with disguised businesses, media for hackers, drug deals, weapons, and much more are carried out. The dark web can be used for good and for evil. Therefore, we can find a myriad of things we can stumble upon. As the dark web is a changing world, we will mention what you can possibly find through it. Since the existence of the dark web, many black markets have exploited their business by marketing all kinds of products illegally, related to drugs through Silk Road, with photos they uploaded. Also, the EB or Vice, that after long years of investigation and monitoring by US authorities, arrested in 2013 the administrator Ross Ulbricht, who used the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts. The internet is honestly no longer a safe place in general. If you are talking about the dark web, there you will find totally dangerous places, that even by using a good VPN and antivirus, you will not be safe. There are unknown sites that could even hack or infect your computer. One of the ways in which the dark web can be used is as originally intended with our project, giving the facility to report anonymously and journalists to filter sensitive information. It is a way to have the freedom and transparency that the internet offers. However, there are people in the world, such as criminals and terrorists, who do not escape from giving it a more sinister use. Through the web forums, hackers also market important stolen data, credit card numbers, and digital identities that they obtain by hacking into other systems. It consists of a network of infected devices used by a hacker who controls them, infecting devices without the owners being able to realize it. In this way, the hacker spreads the virus, phishing, and others to obtain private information. This type of program operates in the dark web, so hackers sell bonnets in exchange for money illegally. Although the dark web is a free way to access information of interest that normally cannot be published, it is important to always take precautions. There are a number of proposals and ways in which this resource can be used, whether for defamation or sensitive information, encrypted communication by government agencies, illicit business and hackers, It is now part of a world that may or may not take proper advantage of this resource. If you're not fully aware of all that the dark web hides, it is very important that you take precautions, although we do not even recommend you to access it. But you already have a day of what you can find on the dark web, from secrets to illicit activities, mysteries and secrets that may not be suitable for the general public. Remember and keep this in your mind, the dark web is not for everyone. If you enter there, it will be under your strict responsibility.